Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our People and Planet of our first meeting. I'm very excited to see so many people here tonight. That's really wonderful. I'll also like to introduce you to our team members, but perhaps the first person who should talk to us is Jannine, who will do some housekeeping with us and explain some of the terms and references that we are working to. So over to you, Jannine. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Debbie. And as Debbie says, fantastic to see you all here. I'm Jannine Birtwistle, and I'm here really just to do the housekeeping, but also there's a couple of things I want to talk to you about briefly before we hand over totally to Debbie and Elliot. Please, in the chat, could you put in a chat message to me your address and postcode and a contact number if you are home alone. If you could rename yourself so that we know where you're from, which Rotary Club or group or hub or what your role is, that would be fantastic. Please keep your phones on silent. Please stay muted throughout unless you're invited to speak, and there will be opportunity for discussion. The chat box is available throughout, but please respect it and be part of the meeting rather than having a separate meeting through the chat box. There will be a transcript being done. It is being recorded, and there will be follow-up materials. So I'm the current team lead for the Humanitarian Service Specialist Advisor team. And the whole purpose of the team is about providing support to what you as Rotarians are doing, us as Rotarians are doing in our own clubs, the things that we're doing as members and the things that we're doing to add to the image, the positive image of Rotary generally. And what we're trying to do is to do things together in ways that do enhance Rotary's relevance. And sometimes we forget about that. You forget to even mention the name Rotary. So unless we expect everybody to learn things by osmosis and to know that it really is Rotary that's organising something, we need to be telling them. And I don't think there's anything better than talking to them and involving them and showing that Rotary is doing something about the environment in and with our communities. The humanitarian service team, I'm not going to go through it here, but we are all here to help. There is somebody in your district/cluster who is part of the humanitarian service team, and they are your first point of contact if you need any support. Your clusters, you should have the map of where your clusters are. You should know which cluster you're in. If you don't worry about it. It's on the Rotary GB&I website. This is, of course, our mission statement, and this is about us together. That is really, really important, and it's about creating lasting change. And lasting change is no more relevant in any Rotary service than it is around environmental projects. And of course, our Rotary International President, Francesco, has asked us all to unite for good. And that means within our communities, within Rotary, within our organisation, within our families, and I dare say it, actually to share things and share expertise and knowledge. Because if we actually do work together collaboratively, we learn from each other, we share our talents and skills, we can increase that impact and expand our reach. We can get more people involved. We can get more members of the Rotary family involved. We can get members that have perhaps decided that they've done their service and they don't want to do any more hands-on, or maybe their knowledge will help. Or those that have left, perhaps they might want to rejoin Rotary when it has a really new focus and a new way of doing things, because we have to be able to adapt. And the environment, again, is something that really, really shows that, because we have to be dealing with today's needs and preparing for tomorrow's challenges and making ourselves, our families, our Rotary organisation, our communities more resilient for what those challenges will be. And if you're in this call today, you think that that's linked to the environment in some way. And I know that everybody on the environmental project team certainly thinks that. So the messages around Rotary and the huge array of things that we do can get very, very confusing to the public and often to our own members. So we're putting together anything and everything that we do into 3 unifying themes. And those are the themes there. I'm not going to read them out. You can see them very much there. Each of those themes has 3 teams being put in place or in place relating to things that are relevant in our communities, wherever they are, whether it's in an inner city, whether it's out in the middle of nowhere, whether it's somewhere that is a very wealthy economic area, or where it's somewhere that people are really struggling. Future generations is where environmental project team sits. And it's about the future for our young people. It's about the future for our planet. It's about the future for every single one of us. And I want to now hand over entirely to Debbie and Elliot. I'm just going to be pushing buttons and leaving them to do all the talking. So again, thank you for being with us. We hope you're going to be joining us for these workshops on a 3-monthly basis, and we look forward to your ideas and your participation. Thank you. Debbie and Elliot, over to you.
Thank you, Jannine. Thank you very much. So, right, well, I suppose I should start off by, I'll introduce myself first of all. I'm Debbie Carmichael. I'm from the Kirkintilloch Club, which is in Scotland South. I'm the District 1320's Environment Team Lead, and I'm also being honoured by giving this post here today. So I'm passionate about the environment, of course, but that's my background. And I'll pass over to Elliot, who's my deputy. He's my amigo in this. We work together. So Elliot, it's over to you, and maybe you could introduce yourself and also the rest of our team.
Thanks, Debbie. Yes, I'm from District 1210. I've got a strong interest in the environment, particularly through the Wildlife Trust movement where it started and looking at biodiversity. But I would like to touch on the rest of the team as well, if that's okay. So if we just move on to the next slide. Of course, we met Debbie, Jannine. We've also got Chris, who I think is on the call today as well, from Everard. So we've got Veronica, who's on the call. I think Duncan might be on the call as well as Jane, and we've got Donald. So we've got a huge array of experts who have joined the team and who cover geographically and a variety of different interests. So please do feel free to reach out to all of us and talk to us about the amazing projects that you're working on. I believe Jeff's joined us on the call. I know he's just come back on a flight from somewhere, so I don't know if
yes,
it's okay.
he is with us. I don't know if you can talk.
Good evening, Jannine. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can
hear you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Yes, my apologies about my surroundings, but just very quickly to pick up some of the themes that have already been mentioned. The reality is that environment fits very much in the Rotary priorities. My role is to support the team and the group, but also to see where that links in with both ESG and some of our sustainability work as an association. And I'm there to try and knit things together and join things up. And actually, one of the things I'd like to mention in passing is copy with pride, because it's important when we have got projects that we can all share and learn from, we should do that. And my last comment this evening, which I'd appreciate if Debbie and Elliot would also put on their list, is about carbon literacy. My conversation is there's a number of districts currently looking at carbon literacy training, and I'd like to take a view on that so that we as an association could go to the Carbon Literacy Trust and actually put something together that might well be Rotary specific. So if there's anyone in this call either looking at or involved with carbon literacy, if they could let the group know, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much for that, Jeff. We do have a brief video from Salvador, which we should probably play, and then we can include the carbon literacy comments after that, and everyone can have a bit of a think before we get back to that discussion. But thank you so much, Jeff.
The majority of the rivers in the world are connected through an ocean. We all live on one single planet, in the same home. Rotary's areas of focus are also interconnected: water and sanitation and hygiene, education, economic development, maternal health, disease prevention and treatment, peace, and the environment are all interconnected. As a kid, I saw my mother cry many times before going to bed. She will cry over the loss of her older daughter, my sister Agatha. I sat on her lap, wiped her tears, listened to her story. She shared with me that my older sister Agatha one day got sick after coming back from visiting my dad's farm, where she was swimming in the waters of the Meca River in Mexico. That river carries sewage discharge from a city nearby. My mom will tell me that my sister was in the hospital. The nurses will come with hot towels, trying to bring some movement to her arms and legs. But unfortunately, that disease also affected her nervous system, and she could not breathe. That disease that took my sister's life was polio. I told my mom that I will do everything I could to prevent mothers like her from suffering a similar pain, a pain from the loss of a child to a disease like polio and other diseases caused by river pollution. Years later, as an 11-year-old, we visited the River Lerma Santiago in Mexico, and I was astonished by the garbage and wastewater pollution that the River Lerma Santiago carried. It had so much foam that looked like as a house. We were told not to go in the water, that was contaminated and it will make us sick. I told myself, someday when I grow up, I will come back and do something to clean up the river. Decades later, I was invited to join Rotary, an organization that is helping to eradicate polio. And I thought to myself, if Rotary can eradicate polio, then Rotary can help eliminate pollution in the rivers. And by doing so, save lives by preventing many diseases.
Thank you, Jannine. Thank you. His story is poignant and powerful. And our focus, I think, certainly in this particular broadcast today, I think is we must consider and talk quite a bit about water and how important our seas, our oceans are. That so much of our pollution, 80% in fact, in our oceans come from the land. So there has recently, with the UNEP, United Nations Environment Project, joining up with Rotary International to look into projects which are entitled Community Action for Fresh Water. This has evolved out of so many of these ideas that people have realized that really this is something we have to stop. And one of the schemes that we've been talking about recently is Adopt a River. It's a very simple idea, but it works so powerfully well. If every stream and burn and river that runs through our hometowns and our countryside are addressed by our concern, we will stop or at least reduce massively that bulk of pollution that falls into our oceans. And that's something that every Rotary Club could do because we don't live any distance from any of those sources of water. Take a section of them and perhaps involve with your community groups to maintain them, to litter pick, to do surveys on the landscape and look at the quality of the water. So I suppose really we should start here by asking if there are any questions about that, or people who have ideas about that, or who are in fact involved and engaged with those projects at the moment concerning our rivers of water. So I'm going to open the floor up. And we'll look for hands, if that's possible, Jannine, or anyone who would like to contribute to this. So,
this is Mohammad Ali speaking. I'm trying to find the hands over here.
Hello, good evening, Mohammed.
Good evening. Can I ask the question now?
Of course, of course.
Okay. I mean, you mentioned that, about the river, and, I strongly feel that we should have, control our pollution into the river. But the Rotarians have got very limited ability to control that. Most of it is done by the water companies in UK. They're dumping sewage into it, which as a Rotarian, we can pick up the litter or something like that. It will have minimal effect on the rivers that is being regularly polluted by the water companies. So, I mean, I would very much like to see projects that we can do, hands-on project that Rotarians can do, which will improve the environment.
Yes.
And I would really like to hear people who are doing. I mean, we've planted trees, we've picked up litters, but what else can we do? Encourage Rotary clubs, do things which will help the environment. I mean, there's things about, encouraging people to buy electric vehicle and put solar panels on your house and have a heat pump, all that I personally am doing, but it's not something that Rotary as a whole, I'm not sure is able to do that.
Mohammed. Right. Because I live in Scotland, I have a kind of information from that part of the country. So I don't know what happens across the board in other parts of the UK, but first of all, we have one water authority in Scotland, which remarkably helps because they're accessible. We also have SEPA, which is the Scottish Environment Agency. And we have an organisation called Keep Scotland Beautiful, who conducts citizen surveys of water and of pollution and of the items that we find in water. They, in turn, inform the Scottish Government. And the conclusions they come to and the facts and figures that they produce every year based on these surveys, of which there are hundreds across the country, that information goes to central government, or at least to the Scottish Parliament. So that becomes part of conversation, becomes part of a debate and interaction among people who can make differences. It also highlights areas where certain industries are putting particular pollutants into the water, and that information is extremely useful as well. That's one insight, and I don't know what might happen across the country elsewhere, but I'd be very happy to find out more. I hope there's quite a few hands up already.
Yeah, I think Graham might have had his hand up first, Deborah, so I don't know if there's anything that he would like to add.
Good evening, Graham. Please ask your question or contribute. We're very happy to hear from you.
Okay, so I'm very keen to try and do what we can in relation to litter in rivers. Adopt a river. I'm not going to offer to take on the Thames. We might need some help with that. Yeah, so that might have some local connections. There is an existing Rotary project which runs at the end of May, first 2 weeks of June every year, Plastic Blitz, Rotary Plastic Blitz, and that runs in partnership with, I believe, the Environment Agency, which has some coordination contacts with water companies. So, and then each participating body in Plastic Blitz identifies a location, a section of river. In my district, we started that last year, two clubs and 2 projects, but there is an existing Rotary project in relation to cleaning litter from rivers. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. It's very good to know that and to find what locations are featured in this particular blitz.
So Rotary Plastic Blitz, it arose out of the Thames with 2 clubs, Henley and Marlow, and then Rotary took it up and tried to expand it. So each year we're trying to grow that with more and more locations. So there are more and more locations, including, I believe, one in Scotland this past summer. But most of them at the moment are in that Thames corridor, if you like, but trying to expand out of that source.
Very good information for us to also find out more about and to spread the word on that. Thank you. Thank you, Graham. Chris, you have actually, Jane had your hand up a wee while ago. If you'd like to go now, please. Jane is a member of this team and is very involved with the Canals and Rivers Trust, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you, Jane.
That's absolutely right. We're working very hard. We've got 2 clubs in District 1210, haven't we, Elliot, which has who have actually adopted part of the canal, and they do litter picks and general work collecting and keeping the canal path clear. We've also had an impact day where we have actually mown the grass. We have rather precariously taken the lawnmower across the canal. Which
we have a video that we're showing later, Jane, of you doing that.
Oh, right. So I'll leave that then, shall I? But also, we also have a club that's working with a school that's taking water samples. So that's a nice linkage as well. Leave the rest about the Canal and River Trust, but as GB&I, we're trying to form a partnership with the Canal and River Trust, and that's a really good future progress, I think.
It's something that people forget, that canals are a source of fresh water, and that canals have a great deal of wildlife living on them, and people do interact all the time for strolls and walks, for going in a kayak, for fishing. But there's also quite a lot of terrible rubbish deposited into these canals, and these canals have to be emptied from time to time, and all of that material flows back into the water table. So it's really just as important to look after a canal is, in fact, to look after our rivers. Thank you very much, Jane.
What I love about that project, as well as that the partnership elements of it, how you bring in other bodies within and outside of Rotary just to have that bigger impact. And Christine in the chat's mentioned something about a litter pick project that she's done in relation to the wildlife trusts. So there's a bit more detail about similar projects that are going on, and that's really great to see.
I think Chris has his hand up next. Chris, if you would like to make your point, please, or ask your question, or help us here. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Yes, the 2 citizen science projects that you probably already are aware of, most of you at least will have heard of them. So Earthwatch does its big Great UK Water Blitz twice a year, and of course the Wildlife Trusts do the big River Watch, and they've been talking to each other, and they do these on the same day, so that you can report what you've seen, and for £9 you can buy the kit to test for nitrates and phosphates, which we've been doing for several years as a club and other clubs locally as well. And of course, if you choose your part of the river that your club passes through your area, you get a really good continuous picture. Now, in terms of changing things on its own, of course, that doesn't. But what really is fantastic is that the results are available to you almost instantly from the Earthwatch site, with a description of the state of the river, which you can then, of course, copy and paste and use to notify your local community in a form of, at the very least, gentle shaming, so that you can make it clear that you're aware. And if you take it to the local brook, for example, with adjoining farmland, you can send a message through different routes on your website and so on about the knowledge and that you're going to be upping the game. And we do that with the Rivers Trust as well, of course, to make sure that there's buy-in on a local level, mostly in the U's for us and adjacent brooks. So there we are. That's it.
Thank you very much, Chris. Yes, it's important to share that information and let people really know also that someone is paying attention. I think that's also quite, how we say, and it spurs the local people and local authorities to speak up and to do something as well and support what we're trying to do. Veronica, hello. Would you like to speak to us now, please? Veronica is also a member of our team, by the way, which please.
Thank you, Deborah. Hello, everyone. I thought I'd intervene or speak at this time because I'd like to bring a business perspective to it. I know that Rotary, we are a volunteering organization, but we're also engaging with communities, and communities do include enterprises. Now, I say this because, of course, I run a business that needs to generate revenue. And interestingly enough, just last Thursday, we had an online summit for small and medium enterprises around sustainability. So it's helping businesses to understand that sustainability with its multiple facets has different ways in which you can evidence or take action. And one of the panelists we had on a session on the circular economy is a Sheffield-based business that collects plastic waste, or this is how they started, plastic waste from waterways or rivers. And so they work with the River and Canals Trust to collect the plastic waste, and they create pots or decorative items. So I'll put the link in the chat because it could be something that maybe in some areas Rotary clubs may be engaging with economic development projects, and maybe there is a potential. As I was listening, I was thinking that maybe there's a potential to engage with school projects. So children in schools who may be able to collect the waste and convert it to projects, maybe that's something that Rotary may find sponsorship or be able to fund, because I'm happy to do the introductions to the company because one of the co-founders was a speaker at that summit. But in effect, because they're a business, they need to generate revenue. It could be that they create a kit or something that can then be sponsored into schools so that it makes that connection with young people in education.
Thank you, Veronica. Absolutely. It's surprising actually how many schools have adopted environmental projects and very young children. I think we saw a little film recently about a litter pick on a beach in Wales. And this lady came along and saw the Rotarians working and other people. And she said, well, could I join in? I was very interested. But then she said, you know, it has come this way from me that every time I go to the beach with the children, just to play, they don't want to do that. They want to do a litter pick first. You know, but being seen and out and about and engaging is very, very important. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you. Michael Kirby, you have your hand up. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. Yes, we have just been invited and are beginning to cooperate with Bristol Rotary Club and one of the other Bristol clubs on a joint effort with the Bristol Avon Rivers Trust. And we are identifying a small stream that's one of our local tributaries into the river system and looking towards the Severn. And there is opportunity to cooperate with not only other Rotary clubs, but also with those who are already volunteering, doing work like that, and gain the professional support of those who are in fact NGOs charged with doing work, and which have a certain amount of funding and are looking to get a little more funding by cooperating with Rotary. This is very early days for us, but it is quite exciting, and we're looking to try and get some more local support, both from Rotarians and from others.
That's an incredible project, Michael. Which club's that in relation to? Sorry if I missed that.
We are Thornbury District 1100, and we are collaborating with the main Bristol club and also with Bristol Breakfast, also District 1100.
It's a mighty river.
Yes, well, we're looking at a very small bit of it, but there are 4 streams that bound and have historically set the area of the town of Thornbury, and it has a substrate which is suitable to be restored for access by eels and trout, which historically it would have carried.
If you are bringing eels back, that would be a tremendous indicator.
Yes, that is happening because there's a great opportunity for that, and this is a small part of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's exciting, really exciting. Eels really are an indicator that the water is in extremely good condition. That is tremendous to know that. That's super. Are there any other questions or comments that anybody would like to make?
If there aren't any, Debbie, it might be worth just asking if, but from Jeff's point earlier about climate training as well, seeing if anyone's had any experience around that in the group. I know Kavita mentioned something around climate fresque. So it might be that others have experience in that area as well.
Yeah, so if anybody wants Climate Fresh, I can bring a trainer here if you wanted that type of training. But that's just, I know there's carbon literacy, but there's also Climate Fresh. And that's around climate change, understanding the science a bit more. And there's also planetary boundaries. So I've got access to that type of training if anybody wants it anywhere. But but the carbon literacy is probably a good one to start with, I guess.
That would be fascinating to hear more about that. Because I've only just recently heard the phrase, to be perfectly honest. I saw it in a post in a local community inviting people to come to seminars and to look at it from various points of view, like from the point of view of tourism, but also sustainability in urban areas and, of course, in rural areas. I'd love to know a lot more about it, certainly.
Yeah, we can catch up on that at some point. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Kavita.
I think Jannine might have a question as well.
Yeah, I do actually. It's not an area that I'm familiar with to any great extent, but I'm sure there are people on this call that are. But I have been seeing some things in the media over the last week or so that a number of the plastic recycling businesses in both Great Britain and Ireland and Europe are actually closing down because it's so much cheaper to get recycled plastics from Asia. And I just wondered if there's any thought as to what impact that may or may not have in initiatives within these islands.
Very good question, Jannine, and very complicated because this is sending our trash, away from the West and to other countries. But is it providing actually some industry that might be beneficial? I don't know. I recently talked to a friend of mine from Nigeria, and he's involved with End Plastic Soup, which I'm sure that most of you will have heard of. And he said actually that there is an economy that actually helps schools if the children are gathered into monitor groups and collect material that is plastic and disposable materials, and they go to recycling centres. And part of the benefit from that is that the school actually receives some money actually to sustain some of their other school projects. So it might work positively, but I don't know what happens to what we collect, because we are one of the main polluters in the world. What we produce here is quite shocking.
That's a really good point, Debbie. And Chris has put a fantastic statistic in the chat about every 1 kilogram of plastic recycled is 1.5 kilograms of CO2 is saved. So there's lots of science behind that. I know Veronica's got a hand up, but perhaps Jeff may want to come into this conversation at some point if he's still not tied up at the airport, because I know he's got a lot of experience in the plastic industry.
Yeah, thanks, Elliot. I mean, as some people on the call are aware, I work in industry and sustainability. The UK has lost a third of its recycling capacity in the last 18 months. With all deference to our current administration, they're talking an awful lot but not supporting anything. And part of the problem is that virgin material is being allowed to flow into the UK that is simply far too cheap. It was incredibly disappointing that we didn't get an agreement with the Global Plastics Treaty conversation in August. But what we've actually got at the moment is, and last week I had meetings with 2 different groups in DEFRA, including the Circular Economy Group and the Circular Economy Task Force, and I can bore people with why they're different. The reality is our government is well aware of the current issues, and it shouldn't dissuade us as Rotary from looking at how materials are used and what we can do to ensure that people aren't using plastic, and that what plastic is used should not be single use. And this is part of the conversations. And this actually links back into the education piece, which is not for me to talk about tonight. But again, it's something that we're looking to move forward, both with the environmental group and as the board.
Thank you, Elliot.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Veronica, please, your hand is
Thanks
up.
again. Yeah, thanks again, Deborah. There were two aspects that I wanted to comment on. One is the training. Jeff mentioned carbon literacy across the organization rather than each Rotary Club or group taking its own path. I'd say that in principle, I certainly agree with that approach because we need to start having a common understanding rather than different interpretations of what it actually means and what can be done. So I support that. I think the question would then be as to which would be the most appropriate route or activity to take, because there are pros and cons for each, and some may be suited to more community type initiatives or projects, and to realize that the offerings, again, this is a commercial piece coming in because this is not free, but I think we need to make an informed decision rather than merely going with what may seem to be most fashionable. But the other point I wanted to make related to the plastic and waste. Interestingly enough, today I was having a conversation with someone who's in a startup business looking exactly at that. This is about looking at waste, packaging, and creating a tool, a piece of software that would allow for the measurements to start, because there is legislation in the UK under the extended producer responsibility, which says that you can no longer, cafes, for example, can no longer just generate waste and dispose of it. They need to be able to actually know what it is that they're doing. And if it's found that their waste is contributing to harm, they could be responsible and fined. And therefore, there is a stick that would drive some of the actions that will be taken. So maybe there's an opportunity here for Rotary Great Britain and Ireland to look at what gaps there may be and how some of that can fit in with community projects or community club projects, so that it's not only about collecting litter or collecting waste, but maybe it goes before that, which is the education piece, and to see where people can take action so that it can reduce consumption. And add to that further, I would suggest that maybe what we should also put on the table is considering linking some of these initiatives with the global perspective around Sustainable Development Goals, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, because I could see, I think it's SDG 12 that deals with consumption. That certainly would have lots of those tasks or activities within that SDG that would allow Rotary Great Britain and Ireland to connect not only with our causes, but to look at that broader framework that's linked with the SDGs.
Excellent, Veronica. Thank you. And thank you for your insight and knowledge as well, because it's surprising what we don't know. And I guess this is all part and parcel of what this forum is about as well, is to find out from people who really know so many of the other aspects and complications about doing projects that will help the environment and being linked and joined up, making that effort a solid front and not just everybody going off in their different directions. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think, how are we doing for time? We're fine for time. It's always the driving force around these meetings is that we have so little time and so many things that we're going to talk about. I think it might be a good idea to see Jane's footage now at this point. To support, this is just a simple project that has working so well and has expanded into something really quite remarkable. So this is Jane Cooper, and Jane is a member of our team, but she's also a member of the Humanitarian Specialist Advisor team. So,
my interest in the environment started when I was brought up on a farm and continued when I went into biology teaching, where I led field courses and got rather up close and personal with limpets on the South Wales coast. Let me tell you about one project I was recently involved in. Throughout the UK, we have an incredible network of canals, and these are looked after by the Canal and River Trust. Jackie Holcroft, who is part of the support services at GB&I in Ulster, organised an impact days, and The one that we had in District 1210 was with the Canal and River Trust at the Harecastle Canal, the Harecastle Tunnel, which actually is an incredible place that is 1.5 miles long. We were set to clear a rather overgrown nature trail. Clear the towpath. Some bits were more precarious than others. Put down hardcore. We actually very much enjoyed working out in the open, seeing the impact of what we had done, using equipment either that we'd never used before or in a new place. I in particular enjoyed opening up the nature trail, which had been put in place by a special needs school in the local area, and also releasing this sign and the bench behind it and the rhododendron bush in the front. The signs that we put out showed the people that were walking by that it was Rotary doing this work, and they stopped to chat and asked what we were doing and who we were. We now hope this will be continued. We'll develop the partnership. There's a couple of local clubs that might be interested in adopting further parts of the canal system and forming a partnership with the Canal and River Trust. This was primarily a session for us to do service in our local community, but it had many other things involved with it too. We were able to develop our partnership working not only with the Canal and River Trust, but also between the clubs and the hub. There were 5 clubs actually that were part of this day. We were able to develop our service so that we had more to offer to prospective members, and we were able to raise awareness of Rotary in the community. And really importantly, we had great fun and we were able to eat cake. Thanks for listening.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. That was great. I particularly like the end, but it's always important to have a bit of cake. I think it's really important. It's quite interesting that locally there's a group called the Rubbish Paddlers that act actually along the Ayrshire coast, and what they do is they get into inaccessible places on their kayaks. What they've done, they linked up 3 kayaks and put a board on it, stabilized the whole thing, and they're able to collect in places where companies and private landowners are not happy to have you around or to come on to the land in any places, but they were able to gather a lot of this from the sea, from the actual river as well. So there are ways, and I think that's just wonderful what you did to also to contact so many people, because we're out, we're active, we're attractive. They see us everywhere. So thank you very much for that. I'm just having a wee look at how we're doing for time. Oh, we're doing grand.
I'd be quite interested, Debbie, to hear about the different topics that people like to have in these sessions, because today we very much focus on water and the environment, but it might be that we should focus on something else next time. So I'd be quite interested to hear what people's views are on that.
What people are interested in hearing more about, that we can research in advance perhaps and have more information for you. There are a couple of things, I suppose. Carbon literacy obviously is one that we will look at and find out more about. There's the Project End Plastic Soup. Chris knows quite a bit about that, which has started in Amsterdam, I think, and is becoming quite an important contributor to a positive environmental activity. Ian, please. Hello.
Great. Well, as Chris knows, and indeed Jannine, we've been very busy in this part of the world with repair cafes. We started the first Rotary-led one 3 years ago. We've now got, to my knowledge, 6 Rotary-led repair cafes. I'm struggling to find more, but if anybody knows of any more around the country, please do let me know. But I would say that this is something which is catching light more generally, not just within Rotary. There are lots and lots of repair cafes being started all over the place. Very good for looking after the planet in terms of sustainability, avoiding new purchases, keeping everything going, but it's also bringing communities together. It has a great effect on local people meeting other local people, helping them and building friendships and so on. So there's as far as I can see, there's nothing wrong with repair cafes in any dimension. But I would like to find ways to spread this more widely within Rotary, because I think there's a great opportunity here to use repair cafes for Rotarians to meet with other non-Rotarian volunteers in their communities.
There are quite a few organisations across the country that are things like the Men's Shed, where these gentlemen, it's mainly gentlemen who meet together, obviously, to do just that, but to have young people involved in this. I'm sure, Elliot, you completely agree with that.
I couldn't agree with that more, Debbie. And I think Jannine's got a point she wants to make on that as well, actually.
Jannine, please.
I have posted in the chat an article from a couple of years ago, Ian, around the repair cafe that was in Rotary magazine. But absolutely. But I also want to just go back to something I mentioned earlier on about the unifying themes and how all that we do in Rotary is interconnected. And like Veronica said around the UN Sustainable Development Goals, actually, all Rotary service is linked to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We just don't necessarily stop and think about it or talk about it. And I think environment is a key one around that. But also, the other unifying theme teams, such as the mental health and wellbeing team, the winter activities team, men's cafes, repair cafes, or whatever, they could actually be registering as warm welcome spaces where people connect and get over loneliness or lack of connection, the intergenerational working that's possible. How many young people know how to change a light bulb, know how to actually use a screwdriver or a spanner or anything like that? And I think there is a wealth that our more senior members of Rotary generationally could actually be sharing, and at the same time give the opportunity for the youngsters to be sharing their skills and how they can be helping. And I just think that we need to stop thinking inside our silo mentalities and see how we can actually connect the dots within Rotary, within our communities, and actually get people seeing that Rotary is truly relevant to today. And I think in today and where the world is at, where our communities are at, for a variety of reasons, Rotary is needed more now than it ever has been. And we need to step up. And I think environment is an amazing way of doing that.
I was just thinking of what you said there, Jannine. Young people also will learn new skills maybe that will give them a certain amount of satisfaction. But actually making things with their hands is a wonderful way just to learn to relax, but also to communicate, as you said. Thank you very much, Ian. That was very interesting. Thank you.
May I come in? I can't find the hand.
You only see your head.
But I'm here from Oban. Which is on the west coast of Scotland, and astonishingly is part of District 1320, as we find it quite interesting that we are. But what I wanted to talk about was the fact that we've become a little bit involved in what's called the local place plan. Now, local place plans are documents which are put together, and it has to be a community-led, a body that starts organising the place plan. But once it has been constructed, as it were, put together, and it can become part of a legal document, and councils have to refer to it before going ahead with developments and that sort of thing. And one of the things that I've been involved in, and I'm hoping to get Rotary more involved in, is that one of the things that's come out is that, and there are quite a number of young people involved in putting this local plan together. They're hoping to have a nature network, which is going from the shore up to some local woods and looking at the different habitats and actually doing a sort of nature trail, which is informing local people. It's a nice walk through, but also informing tourists who come to our area. It's a big tourist area. The local plan people are asking Rotarians and so on to contribute certain skills towards it. So I'm all in favour of that sort of involvement, particularly if there are young people involved. And so I would recommend people in Scotland, if they are not aware of local place plans, and many people are not, then it would be something to look into and see whether Rotary could not be involved.
Dot, thank you very much for that. I would like to know more of what the place plan is, how it's what's created around local information, or
yes, local people, the bodies that set it up bring in sort of discussion groups, and I invited some of the people involved in trying to put the local plan together to a Rotary meeting, and we had an interactive Rotary meeting where we were discussing things that were good, things that were bad, things that we felt needed attention, looking forward, and so on. It was very, very valuable indeed. I have to say, unfortunately, some of the older members of the club felt it really was a bit of a waste of time, but a number of us really felt that it was a good step in the right direction.
About conservation as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I was out with some of the group the other day with a lichenologist, because we're in the Atlantic rainforest area here. And obviously it's one of the things that's worth bringing to people's attention is, that sort of thing you can draw attention to the locals, but also people visiting the area, how valuable an area it is.
John, I've heard of an organisation called Guerrilla Botanists.
Yes.
What they do is actually they go out and, you have what they call stalled spaces where, abandoned allotments and places that have been completely gone to wild. And they actually go and put placards in explaining what these different wild plants do, why they're useful, and what they contribute actually to the well-being of people, and also the ones that you should not go near, of course, as well.
Yes.
I think that could be part of a plan as well. That's
yes. Yeah, well, it actually all started partly because there was a bit of woodland behind the high school, which had become a dumping ground, and it really needed cleaning up. And once people were in there and realised that there was actually quite a bit of potential there, and it was so close to where students had an unpleasant place in the vicinity that could become a very pleasant place and part of a route going through pleasant areas. So that was partly how it started.
Thank you very much, Dot. It's lovely to see you, actually. Thank you very much. That's terrific. So there's a lot of things we need to get information on and report back. I think the idea would be that there will be a kind of central place or site where a lot of the information we've gathered will be accessible to all clubs and all Rotarians as a kind of reference. So we're going to try and build a library, really. I suppose that's what it is, of projects and ideas. And also we would like to know about things that work, but we'd also like to know about things that might have been difficult and didn't quite work. Because out of failures, we can actually create positive impact because we've learned about the shortcomings of certain things. So never be put off by something that didn't work, because we can readdress that. Well, that's an awful lot to be getting on with, I think. So unless there are any other comments or contributions, I think I'd quite like to close with a little bit of information. Not all of our projects have to be massive, huge, international. Sometimes they can be very simple, something that just occurs. Gardening. Gardening is a great way of reaching nature and benefiting nature. It's restorative, it's relaxing, and it can also be a very communal activity. But I made a promise to the Songbird Survival Group that I would make a garden for birds. And that meant digging up concrete lots of concrete in the house I've just moved into. All these slabs everywhere, slabs, hundreds of slabs. So we started the project. My husband went out there and dug up all these slabs, which was terrific, only to find there are more slabs under the slabs. But in between the slabs, there's all this sand. So we kind of despaired and left it for a day. And we went back out into the garden and we were absolutely delighted to discover, if you look at these little darker, little brown areas, these are scoops. These are little kind of sand scoops that an army of sparrows have converted into sandbathing area. There were 23 sparrows. You can see the tiny little footprints all over the place, jumping up and down, running in between all these areas and sanding themselves down, which of course helps them get rid of parasites and so forth. So in a way, I suppose that the answer to this is I need to put some sand areas or at least some bathing areas into my garden for birds. But, you know, if we start and we make our homes and our gardens accessible, it's surprising how nature will compensate and come back to us and grow again. We have to take the steps. Sometimes they're huge, sometimes they're small, but they're all valuable. So thank you all very much for coming. And we intend to continue. I think that we're having another one of these events every 3 months. There'll be another one in January, and hopefully we'll have a lot of information for you stored and ready and accessible. So we very much appreciate you coming, and thank you very, very much indeed. It's been a real pleasure to meet you all. Please spread the word. Let's have more Rotarians on the call next time. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
So thank you, everyone, and good night, and have a lovely week.